First of all, obviously these flight sequences are just truly amazing. Give us some insight into your process for cutting this material.
These sequences were very complicated. They were filmed over months and months and months. We started with some rough previews and storyboards, but that is really only like a way of, it's a thought experiment really to start the conversation about what these sequences will be. It's important that each sequence feels different in the film, and you kind of build up the audience's tolerance for kind of information about altitude and G-force and pop-ups and velocity, knots and speed and all that stuff. And it just takes a very long time. There was so much footage on this movie, 6 cameras on each actor. Every day we'd arrive at the naval base, there'd be a 2-hour briefing where we would talk about the kind of 3 or 4 beats that we would send the pilots up to get. Sometimes 1 jet would go up, sometimes 2, a Top Gun pilot in the front, and then there's an actor, one of the actors in the back. I would watch the footage. Well, the guys would land. We would watch the footage. I would start to get it transcoded. I'd bring it in. My team would start to break it down. And then each day, at the end of the day, I'd be kind of going through with a 6-way split screen, looking at the pieces that we got. Did we have all the emotional beats? I'd sit with Joe, the director. We would review it all. We would try and record temp ADR because the recordings in the cockpit were not always great. Although every line was rewritten multiple times during the editing process to make sure the story was as easy and kind of concise as possible. The exterior shots of the jets were filmed months after the interior shots. And some of them were ground cameras, some of them were heli, some of them were jets. And it's very hard to film a jet going 700 miles an hour. So quite often you would end up with loads of footage with just 18 frames of a cool shot of a jet turning left or right. So it would take forever to skim through all the footage and break it down by location and by kind of movement. And then when I was building the sequences, you're just trying to make sure that you're using all the best stuff. The scenes start out very long. The third act in the movie took me 3 months to do a first pass. And that was every single day, just very slowly, just chipping away, adding shots to my timeline. Some days I would only do 5 seconds or 7 seconds a day because there's so much footage and you're looking at so many options for each moment. And you're trying to save, I remember that when Maverick and Phoenix are doing their pop-up in that part of the mission, there were so many options for the jets climbing and then the jets spinning and then the jets going down. And I wanted to make sure I used great shots for them, but then save some great shots for Rooster and Payback and Fanboy when they turn up and they do their run. Sometimes I would use storyboards. I would cut them in if we had them, or sometimes I'd use previs, but just as placeholder stuff. But then we had to use the actual real shots eventually. So I had to make the best use of what I had. And the sequences always start out too long and in the wrong order. And, in the third act mission, you're cross-cutting between, the Tomahawk missiles and Maverick and Rooster and the 5th gen fighters, and then back with the base, with Cyclone and Warlock and Hondo on the carrier. And you're trying to make sure that you're balancing each story so you understand where everybody is and what the stakes are, where we are in the mission, how much time has passed, how close they are to their target, how far away the enemy fighters are. It takes ages. You get the sequence together. It's not very good. You refine it, you move things around, you re-record lines of dialogue. And earlier in the movie, you've got training missions where we're intercutting action in the air with graphics that are playing on the screen of the F-18. And then there's a classroom, which we call a TAC room, with the pilots being instructed by Maverick. And we're showing graphics on the screen to explain what the pilots have to do. We're educating the audience, but we're trying not to tire out the audience, and we're teaching them about the mission, but we're making it effortless to watch because your eye is always guided around the frame. And everything that you need to see is presented at exactly the moment you need to see it, so that you just follow the geography and the the orientation of the jets in the air and what they're doing, and they're spinning over here and they're diving here and they're going towards the, all of that stuff has to be very carefully thought out and planned, and just took months and months and months to get right. Once you've got something, you're showing it to the director, you're showing it to Chris, the writer, and then ultimately showing it to Tom. And the kind of notes he gives are very emotional notes, whereby he's always saying, I'm not connected with this character, I don't feel the pressure on this character, I don't understand why this character is doing that, things like this. When we went into lockdown, myself and Joe and Chris McQuarrie and Tom Cruise and Jerry Bruckheimer, we really stress test every second of the movie. And we really said, is this the best second it can be? And can it be tighter? Is it the right length? Can I trim frames off? Is this as good as it can be? So we literally took a pass through the entire movie and checked every frame to make sure it was as good as it could be, because we just wanted the movie to be awesome. We took the time that the lockdown offered us to really make sure that every frame earned its place in the film.